Ironically, this book of intolerance and persecution was, in its own time, second only to the Bible in popularity.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be discussing those individuals who sought out and persecuted accused witches throughout history.
Torture was an acceptable means to elicit a confession. And the so-called devil's mark, which wasn't too hard to find, provided undeniable proof.
Thomas Colley.
If a woman's angry and she says something like that, and then something bad happens, you go, oh, that must be because she was a witch.
This former chimney sweep wasn't a witch hunter by trade. He just moonlighted within this space when it came to the accusation and eventual murder of Ruth Osborne. The latter's only crime was allegedly running afoul of a local dairy farmer who refused Osborne buttermilk when she came begging at his door. This farmer named Butterfield soon fell ill alongside his dairy calves, and rumors quickly began to spread of occult influences instituting these illnesses. This is where Thomas Colley comes in, since it was this aforementioned chimney sweep who led the mob and participated actively in drowning Osborne. Colley was hanged for his crimes soon after his trial on July 30th, 1751. John Kincaid. There were many devious ways by which those seeking out a living hunting witches could ply their trade. Witch pricker was the title given to those who used a special method to reveal witches within their community. In the 17th century, John Kincaid held this title within his native Scotland, utilizing specific tools that fooled communities into believing folk tales about supposed witches' marks. Kincaid would take a bodkin or needle with a retractable point, which enabled him to control which of his victims could be proven innocent and which could be designated in league with the devil. He was ultimately found out, however, and spent time in jail before finally giving up his witch-finding ways.
It was widely believed witches could raise storms, destroy livestock, drive people mad, or even kill them.
Heinrich Kramer Boblig of Edelstadt.
Čarodějnice jsou osoby, které uzavírají s ďáblem řádný spolek a přijímají ďábla za svého pána. On jim za to propůjčuje konatí rozličné, nadpřirozené věci.
The number of deaths attributed to the direct involvement of Heinrich Kramer Boblig of Edelstadt are said to be close to 100 people, including 2 members of the clergy. These inquisitions occurred during the Northern Moravia witch trials of 1622, a period which lasted over 70 years to 1696. It was further alleged that Boblig found witch-finding to be financially lucrative during this period, as the lawyer frequently hired out his services to wealthy clientele.
Nedokážu vůbec pochopit, že takový člověk může mít v rukou lidské osudy. Tvůj, můj. A vždycky to tak bude. Buď úplně klidný. Kdybych tomu věřil, nebyl chtít ani šít.
Boblig was also firmly in the pro-torture camp when it came to his methodology, with some accused witches, such as Dorota Davidova, dying in custody before his trial and sentence could be carried out.
On mi to snad Pán Bůh odpustí.
Co pak neví, že takové hloupé pověry jsou hřích.
Christian Caldwell.
Burn the witch! Burn the
The world of witch-finding doesn't historically have too many stories of comeuppance or justice for those that took advantage of this hysteria. This is why the story of Christian Caldwell is so interesting. For starters, she disguised herself as a man so she could carry out her duties as a Scottish witch hunter. However, she eventually accused the wrong person during her exploits, a royal associate with friends in high places. This associate, named John Hay, had Caldwell arrested, and it was here where her gender swap ruse was uncovered. She was banished to an area of Barbados beset by fever and disease for her punishment.
Make way for the accused! Move!
Helen Ukpabio.
This mother of 3 presides over a church with 150 branches. She's also written a popular book in which she advises how parents can identify a witch.
We often think of this business of witch-finding as being something of the past, but this is sadly not the case. Helen Ukpabio has been preaching her own personal gospel of biblical literalism in Nigeria since 1992, during which she's accused countless children of witchcraft. Ukpabio's organization, the Liberty Foundation Gospel Ministries, has unfortunately grown in power and influence since then, although not without worldwide media scrutiny.
Mrs. Ukpabio denied that her teachings and films could encourage child abuse.
In this our ministry, we have about 150 churches in Nigeria.
This organization has spread the dangerous belief that children can serve as vessels for witchcraft spirits, which has resulted in increased rates of abuse and ostracization. Helen Ukpabio's ministry is still active at the time of this writing.
The boy said that the woman said that it is winch.
Alonso de Salazar Frías.
Uden frukt, Herren barmhjertig. Han vil gøre dine øjne seende og vende din sjæl.
Reason thankfully ruled within the head of Alonso de Salazar Frías, a lawyer and inquisitor who abstained from the usual paranoia and hysterics associated with witch trials. Instead, Frias became known as the witch's advocate, since he actively worked against the execution and torture of the accused who stood before his court. His work during the Spanish Inquisition was rooted in reason, of conducting grounded interviews which greatly reduced the number of forced or coerced confessions.
At first, it was those on the fringes of the community who were named. But mounting paranoia meant that soon no one was safe.
This isn't to say that nobody died on account of Frias' ruling, since one witch who allegedly campaigned for the occult was burned at the stake under his watch. Joan Malet. It takes one to know one might have been the motto of Joan Malet, a 16th century man who escaped a violent home life to supposedly shack up with a real-life witch. It was here where Malet allegedly learned the dark arts, utilizing this knowledge to aid his new career as a part-time witch hunter. Malet apparently needed little but his own word to successfully prosecute dozens of women in the Catalan region. During the 16th century, news of these hangings and illegal burnings soon reached the actual Spanish Inquisition, however, and Malet was put on trial. He was eventually executed by the Inquisition in Barcelona on July 2nd, 1549. John Stearne.
Who are they that have been against the prosecutions? They are allied with the enemies of God. I dare not list them.
It wasn't uncommon for some witch hunters to have some help along the way, usually in the form of an assistant or a witch pricker. In the 17th century, John Stearne worked to these ends for Matthew Hopkins, which some sources claiming that the former proved to be a negative influence upon Hopkins as the Witchfinder General. This was seen primarily with regards to Stearne's willingness to lie in order to acquire confessions from his accused. He eventually retired from the business of witch finding and wrote a book that attempted to reframe his collaboration with Hopkins in a less devious light.
Now, Matthew Hopkins, sir.
Heinrich Kramer.
It's called Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches.
It was known as the Malleus Maleficarum, or the Hammer of Witches, and it served as ground zero for witch trial hysteria and cruelty. Heinrich Kramer was the author of this book, published in 1487, and which contained detailed descriptions of demonology that struck an imaginative chord within its readership. Kramer also proclaimed in the Malleus Maleficarum that the Catholic Church should actively prosecute those accused of sorcery or witchcraft. Meanwhile, his trials were controversial, specifically one against a woman named Helen Ukpabio, who vehemently denounced Kramer's sermons and growing influence. Ukpabio was ultimately acquitted and Kramer expelled for reportedly being obsessed with the woman's personal independence and sexuality.
It's extremely striking that most of the accusers came from one side of the factional dispute and most of the accused from the other side.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Matthew Hopkins.
Remember, John Stearne, you ride with me only because you help me in my work.
You call it work?
It's the Lord's work.
The genre of witch hunter pictures isn't exactly a big one, but Witchfinder General from 1968 is one of the most famous and successful examples of folk horror. Genre icon Vincent Price portrays the real-life Matthew Hopkins, a self-styled Witchfinder General, who was unfortunately quite successful at his job.
If she is a witch, the water will reject her and she will float. If that is the case, she will be handed over to the magistrates, put on trial, and, in all likelihood, hanged.
It's been alleged that Hopkins and his assistant John Stearne were responsible for the deaths of approximately 300 women during the course of their careers. His legend today is almost akin to that of a slasher villain, a harrowing figure with dubious morals and a revealing desire for notoriety and financial gain.
There were more witches out there for Hopkins to hunt down.
What are some examples of modern-era witch hunts? Let us know in the comments.
They commanded their spirits, some to kill a man's horse, some to lame a cow, lame a child.